This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.
The Jennings have just moved to the perfect little town.
Smell that air.
Perfect, except for one pesky little problem.
It's just a spider.
Now, experts are moving in.
Dover McClintock, infestation management.
Neighbors are moving out. And the Jennings are just trying to stay calm.
Dad, chill out.
Hollywood Pictures and Amblin Entertainment present Jeff Daniels, John Goodman, Arachnophobia, a thrillamedy, rated PG-13. National sneak preview Saturday, July 14th.
Here for this other mini chat, we have some sci-fi horror and fantasy movies produced by Spielberg. So his sci-fi fantasy horror adventures, if you will. We'll be discussing Arachnophobia, Deep Impact, AI, and the BFG. Enjoy this mini chat.
We mixed, we loaded, we edited.
Sometimes we get so deep into conversation that we have separate segments worthy of their own place in the sun.
Here is a reshuffled mini episode.
I was going through his IMDb, and what's fascinating is, obviously we know him as a director, he's one of the best directors, but he had a record, get on this little run he did of producing in the 80s. So he did, don't forget, he produced Back to the Future in 85.
That's a good segue, yeah.
He directed Who Framed Roger Rabbit in he produced Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He directed, Poltergeist was a strange one because although it was directed by Tobe Hooper, there was all controversy that basically Spielberg, did he step in and sort of shadow direct?
Even though that's what a producer is supposed to do, just give the director notes. It's just everyone just couldn't separate that as like, oh, he was directing there. It's like, no, he literally just gave you instructions. But I gotta say that is a good segue for his side productions. I find it fascinating how he produces some sci-fi fantasy horror adventures on the side, like following Back to the Future. He goes for another, he kind of tries to repeat the Gremlins formula with Arachnophobia. And I see people who are afraid to watch that movie. Trust me, I don't like spiders, but it's a pretty funny movie, I think. And he's got all his producing partners, but it's kind of like if Poltergeist were funny. Like Julian Sands is hysterical in it as the scientist, and John Goodman is the exterminator. So, but yeah, I mean, it's worth a watch, even if it's uneven. But I had no idea for the longest time he actually uncredited rewriting the script for Deep Impact just because he wants to beat Armageddon to theaters.
Is that because of Ben Affleck again?
Oh, it might have been because of Ben Affleck, but yeah. But I find that movie fun in its own right, and he decided let's hire some of the cast and crew from ER. Let's work with John Wells. Let's work with director Mimi Lidar. But I find the whole comparison apples and oranges. Like one is big, loud, and the more popular one, and this one is kind of more modest, kind of more like Apollo 13, but with disaster action at the end. So.
I know obviously they've already announced it because, Dennis Villeneuve's doing the next Bond. But I did think, it was an opportunity to bring Spielberg in because obviously Indiana Jones is, they essentially wanted to do a Bond, their own version of Bond. And I thought when they announced they were looking, forward to it, I thought Spielberg's in his, mid-70s. This, he's not going to be making films forever. If he's ever going to make a Bond film, that felt like the time to just give him it, just hand him the keys and
give him a James Bond movie.
Go do it. Yeah.
Well, it's under new ownership, so there's still time, just. And
I suppose he could be involved at some point.
On May 8th, we've discovered two comets. The countdown to impact. They're both headed for Earth. Will begin. Deep Impact, rated PG-13, starts Friday, May 8th, in theaters everywhere.
One of the things that I think doesn't get mentioned enough with Spielberg. So he did, and I don't know why it's sort of burned in my brain this episode, but he did 2 episodes of Amazing Stories, and the one that's called The Mission, funny enough, with Kiefer Sutherland and Kevin Costner. That out of all the episodes of Amazing Stories, I think that The Mission's probably one of my all-time favorite
I have
ones.
a hysterical story for you. So Mick Garris, if that name rings a bell, he's done all the different Stephen King adaptations. He's been hosting a bunch of podcasts where he gets together with other horror creators. He created the show Masters of Horror and did movies like Sleepwalkers and Hocus Pocus, the original The Stand.
No, we're not.
no.
Liam's not a big horror fan.
Well,
I'm not too far
but see,
behind.
that's what I find funny, though. I'm not always into all of it, but I find it so funny how Stephen King was being seen everywhere, even people who didn't like horror. But what's so funny, though, is Mick Garris has done plenty of other dramas and comedies. He did a movie that was featured on The Wonderful World of Disney, and it was kind of depressing, but very uplifting at the end. Just like an inspirational, just kids getting their lives together after a problematic, existence, growing up and everything. And it was just so funny. Spielberg, when he gave him the chance to create Amazing Stories, it was so funny how, Amazing Stories is kind of a lighthearted Twilight Zone. Sometimes it's terrifying, sometimes it's sci-fi and adventure, but sometimes it's just a straight up supernatural drama. What's so funny is Spielberg came to him after the fact and was like, had I seen that Disney TV movie you did that was so depressing, I wouldn't have hired you in the first place. But he says it, Stephen always says stuff dryly, but he also will give people just simple compliments. He apparently let what's his name, the Indian guy from the Broken Lizard comedy troupe, the Super Troopers guy, he let him direct a comedy in recent years that was a fun East Asian appreciation movie. But what's so funny is the guy's joking is like, yeah, Spielberg Zamblin Company hired me for this job. I've never met the man. The only note he left me was heroes don't wear hats. Reshoot that one scene. So it's just so funny. Like his little small tidbits are always minor. Like he apparently did it with Juliana Margulies on ER, where he's like, the pilot's good. Make sure that character doesn't die. Yeah, it's kind of like when he did that he would give small notes on Back to the Future. He would say, hey, the mother survives in Gremlins. Gizmo also survives. So kill the main monster. Everybody's happy. He's always about little small, just kind of compromises. It's like, hey, it may seem small to you, but trust me, it'll make a huge difference. So
it's because he understands the audience, doesn't he? That's what it is. He's always been the audience. He's always been that kid in the theater himself.
You've got to trust me. You have to trust me.
You're a machine.
I'm a boy.
AI is a must-see. Spielberg's most deeply felt movie hails People magazine. Reviewer David Sheehan calls it hypnotic and fascinating. Spectacular filmmaking, raves Pia Lindstrom. And film critic Joel Siegel says, Steven Spielberg has made some of the best movies you've ever seen. So has Stanley Kubrick, and they've done it again. AI, rated PG-13, now playing at a theater near you.
I don't hate AI, and I kind of can understand why he just kind of felt like he had to just help out his friend and who he admired, Kubrick. But yeah, it's like, that's another movie. You really do struggle to find any interest in it.
I liked that movie up until the end. I think that movie,
I'm with you.
The coda was unnecessary. That movie probably would be on my list of top 10 favorite movies if the credits rolled when the light dimmed with the kid in the little submersible, and the light dims.
I'm with you.
Roll credits. Greatest movie ever made.
Yeah, it's
but depressing.
It really is.
Oh, absolutely. No denying that. But but don't leave without getting some cotton candy ending was just too much for me.
Yeah.
BBC
that movie went on too long.
BBC News did a survey saying it's like the 83rd most important movie since like 2000, but I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know about that.
I don't know
When's
about
the last
that.
time you heard people talking about it but us right now?
Yeah, that's true. It's not one that keeps coming up. It's not one you see, rebroadcast. It's not one that you see.
This is too long too. There's so
yeah,
much
that's true.
window. I don't know how you even cover up some of the more risque material, and at the same time, I don't even know if the ending would have changed any differently with Kubrick. I don't think they changed the script at all, and yet it might have been a little different, or maybe it was just too advanced to get it done in terms of that era. We were just becoming too modernized by that point.
Yeah, I've read that was indeed like Kubrick's ending, but it always felt like a Spielberg ending to me.
Definitely. So there you go. That's why it just didn't mesh. But I mean, the art direction is definitely good, but yet I don't know. I've watched it a few times and I've always just struggled to finish it, and yet I've never regretted watching it. But at the same time, I mean, I kept kind of remembering about it because Stan Winston, my favorite special effects guy, was involved with it.
Yeah.
So was Adam Savage from Mythbusters.
Oh, was he? Awesome.
Nice.
There's actually a great video on YouTube of him visiting the Stanley Kubrick exhibit, and he talks about how Kubrick handed the project off to Spielberg, and he stops in front of some very early storyboard sketches that Kubrick did, and he said, "See, I recognize these because I saw them at Industrial Light of Magic."
Nice. Mark Kermode apparently apologized to Spielberg in an interview in 2013, saying, "I got it wrong. It's now his enduring masterpiece." This is also why I fucking hate Mark Kermode as a critic.
I could never
That
stand
dude
him,
is such
so...
a twat. It's like, especially, how do you say Love Actually is the worst Christmas movie of all time? It's like, fucking hell. Oh.
Yeah, that movie, Artificial Intelligence, definitely didn't get better with time. I'll say some of the few movies that, as a kid, I loved it. And as I got older, I was just like, let's just put this on the top shelf. And just
I've never actually revisited. I've not revisited that film since I saw it the first time.
Yeah. I mean, it's still there on the top shelf. Looks nice, but, I'm not going to bring it down.
Yeah. Maybe if someone does a commentary or recut, but nah.
I'll pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
From Disney, you can call me the big friendly giant. The world's largest critics are chittering about the BFG.
Oh my.
Absolutely squiggling.
Yeah, go on.
It's Rumple Dumpus. A wopsy splunker's delight.
That's the nicest present that anybody's ever given me in my entire life.
The BFG, rated PG, July 1st.
I've seen people who haven't seen some of the big blockbusters just because their parents suck, but I've never seen anyone who hasn't seen any movie by this guy. It is definitely a rarity. What do we think about the BFG? I didn't see that in the theater because it just looked too kid-friendly.
I did see it in the theater, actually.
It was all right, I guess, but it's not really... It feels like something he would have made back in the 80s when he was first starting out, but it doesn't have as much of the intrigue as E.T. or... I don't know. But,
the most I can praise is cinematography. That's about all I can say about that.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that he keeps giving Janusz Kaminski, the ability to keep launching his career, and yet Memoirs of a Geisha didn't really take off, and yet anytime I see Janusz Kaminski trying to do another movie where he's in the director's chair, and maybe even still the head cinematographer is like, well, best of luck, because you need some more material. You know how to lens all of Spielberg's movies. So, as a final note on Spielberg's sci-fi, fantasy, horror, adventure movies, mostly fantasy, it's interesting how with Arachnophobia, Deep Impact, AI, and the BFG, they're all different endeavors. Like, Arachnophobia seems to just be beloved by much of the same Gremlins crowd, and Deep Impact, it often gets tossed out as the one that wasn't as popular as Armageddon, but I see even people who pretty much hated both, and I'm like, I can enjoy both in their own right. They both have their purpose. Tia Leone actually does pretty good, considering this is one of her first movies where she's the lead, just straight off being a sitcom star and being in other adventure films like The Bad Boys first film. This is before Jurassic Park 3. It's like, yeah, I thought she was excellent here. And there really is some solid acting and decent dialogue in this movie, despite Most people only knowing it as, hey, that's the one where Morgan Freeman's the president. And AI, it could have been a Blade Runner movie. It could have been a Kubrick-esque homage, but sadly, it's just a morbid curiosity at this point. And kudos to those who got something out of it. It's always been a watchable disappointment, even though it's not a terrible film. And the BFG, let's be honest, that was for his kids. It came out at a bizarre time. It might have fared better, but it is certainly worth at least one watch. But thanks for listening to this endeavor, guys. We love bringing you a themed week, and this was no exception. So leave a review. Let us know how we're doing with these Spielberg chats.
We'll return after these messages.
Howdy folks, Howback here. We got a 90-minute weekly Shack Stop. Scrolling all over the world. Find it at 2 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Mondays, then 3 p.m. on Wednesdays, then 7 p.m. on Thursdays. You can catch it on many more radio stations, 99.9 KERB, 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern on Mondays. Then catch the encore on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Eastern. Then catch it Wednesday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Central on 107.7 K-Twins. Then hang out with us Wednesday afternoons on MXTR and House Shack Radio, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Then Thursday, get up bright and early with us on 95.7 Web Radio at 6 a.m. Pacific Time, 9 a.m. Eastern. Of course, we've got your Friday covered as well. 12 p.m. Eastern Time on MXTR FM and 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Central, 107.7 K-Twins. Find everything on HowShack.com. HowShack.
Welcome to the Better Call Daddy Show, the #1 podcast where we admit, no matter what happens, Daddy has the advice we need to fix our problems. Introducing my dad, Mr. Wayne Friedman.
That was good. It would be nice if you could also sing a song.
What would the song be?
You love Paris in the springtime. I just made up some words to it.
I love Rena in the springtime. I love Rena in the fall.
That's right. That's good enough.
What I do is interview people of interest, share it with my dad, and get my dad's advice. My dad is my hero. Nobody's got my daddy.
Oh boy, let's go to Grandpa.
If you like to be a little rebel, I tried to rein you in. I have a daughter named Rena that acts just like I did. She's got a son that is not only just like me, but it's just like her.
I'm your host, Rena Friedman Watts. Invite your friends, subscribe, and I'm excited to take this journey with you. Let's dive in.
She was teasing this guy with this sword, and she accidentally cut his dick.
Oh my God, I'm dying.
And then he started to enjoy it.
I started going down the phone sex rabbit hole. You've got the wankers, and they jerk off in 5 seconds, and then they're done because A, they don't want to spend money, and B, they're quick.
My stepfather had mania. If I'm yelling at one of my kids, that fear, that rigid fear.
Mom even said to me, I hope you have a kid just like you.
There are lots of people that are being bought and sold right now for profit.
If you think you're going to kill yourself, shut up and kill yourself. If you're not going to kill yourself, then shut up, smarten up, and it's all on you. The bullshit has to end.
Wow.
When I was 11 years old, I was raped and molested over the course of a year.
What Jeffrey Epstein had was a sickness inside of him.
I am Evan Castrilli Carmichael. I could do anything that I believe that I can.
I'm so excited too. Let's go.
Next on Better Call Daddy with my mom and my grandpa.
Stay tuned.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up